What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are doing another Detroit Lions mock offseason for 2021. That includes free agency, cuts, signings, trades, and the draft. So let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know, DoseOfDion, he put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome everybody to our video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we're back for another mock offseason, but this one is a little bit different. You know how we've done some of these where on camera, I do the draft and I do, the free agency simulator, but I have to, kind of tweak it because it's messed up and it's not right. The numbers are wrong. The salaries are wrong. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do that off camera. I did all that off camera. I did save some of it in case I want some overlays, but I did that off camera. And I also didn't even use the free agency machine. I didn't even use that. I didn't use the free agency simulator because it's so messed up. Honestly, like the cuts are messed up. I'm not saying, the way that you sign players messed up. I like the fact that you can negotiate. I don't know how accurate the, price are going to be for what you can sign players for in free agency. Oh, you can get Romeo super cheap on that. But I just didn't even use it. So here's what I did. I went by Pro Football Focus and actually used what they're projected to get paid this offseason. So I used projected contracts to sign my players. I didn't backload contracts. And I used the league minimum of $180 million. So yeah, I played on expert difficulty with this one. Like Guitar Hero. I can't play expert difficulty. Heck no. They booed me off in like 10 seconds. I stick with medium, with the guitar. Maybe the guitar, medium. What y'all do? Hey, you know what I'm talking about. Come on. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Don't act like you don't. If you don't know, come on, man. You got to play some Guitar Hero. All right. That's completely off topic. So we're going to dive right into this thing, and I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to break down how the mock offseason went. Now, I'm not great with salary cap and numbers and things like that. Like, it takes me a long time to figure out, like, basic things, like just how restructuring a contract works. Like, I've been sitting here for, like, hours, like, trying to figure out, like, okay, so, like, where does the money go? Wow, that is above me. So that stuff messes me up big time. So if the numbers are a little off, I apologize. But I think it's pretty accurate. I think it's pretty good. I used some calculators. I used over the caps calculator. So I think it's solid. I think it came out relatively good if we're using over the caps numbers. Now, hey, those may not be exactly right. This is all rough. You got to call rough estimates here. But I did try to do this pretty detailed in terms of I laid out how many players are on a roster. Like I got it down to like 53 to 55 man roster. And I made a lot more cuts than usual where we just got like 6 players. Like, okay, that's our cuts. Like, no, I made like maybe 15 to 20 cuts. Yeah, so there's a lot of cuts. Now, I didn't do like the whole 90-man roster thing and all that. Like, I'm down to like 53 to 55 players. So it's like, okay, boom, active roster time. So I'm going to show you guys what I did and what we're looking like. Hey, I'm not sure how realistic this is, but I had some fun with it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. You are entertained by this. So let's just dive right into it, man. Let's get into those cuts. So yes, as you can see, league cap set at $180 million, which is the minimum. That's where they set the floor for this year. So hopefully that goes up and it makes it a little bit easier. And if it does go up, we're going to have a little bit more money, and that's going to be nice. But like I said, I tried to do it on expert difficulty and just assume for the worst, which is 180, which puts us, if over the cap and things like that are correct, $8.3 million over cap. Dang, that's tough. So $8.3 million over cap. So I had some work to do when it came to cuts. And I cut more than just like 6 players. I cut a lot of players. Some just for roster space, just to get our roster down to like 53, 55 players. And some because I needed the money. So let's take a look at the cuts I made. But really my goal for this mock off season, they're all different. Sometimes, we do different things. Maybe next time I'll do a mock off season where if Goff's contract is restructured. Or maybe if Goff is traded. Something crazy. We can have some fun with it. But this one I was focused on the future. I was all about the future. Not necessarily I made all these trades to like grab 500 picks next year. But I was focused on the future in terms of I wanted to sign guys, to younger players, cheaper deals. I tried to focus on the future that would set us up well for the next couple of years. So you'll see what I'm talking about with that. I just try not to mortgage the future for this year because, I think it's going to take some time, and I really try to focus on building through the draft what the Detroit Lions have been talking about. So let's take a look at these cuts here. So the first cut we have a Desmond Trufant, $6.2 million saved. I feel like that one was kind of an easy one. Most of us cut Desmond Trufant when we do this. It saves you over $6 million. He has 1 year left on his deal. He was injured last year, and he didn't even play that well. I just thought there's really no reason to keep him around. Might as well cut him, save over $6 million because I need it. So I cut Desmond Trufant. Not a huge explanation needed there. Justin Coleman. Now, this is the only June 1st cut I did, okay? I promise. I could have done 2. I only did 1 this time. Usually I do with the Jesse James as well, but I just did 1. I had to do it. I had to. I didn't want to. At first, I tried to do it without. But then I was like, man, I just want a little bit more money for free agency there, just a tad more. So I did do a post-June 1st cut, which basically, if you don't know, I think I do know about the contracts, I guess. Basically, the June 1st cut, it moves that dead money over the rest of the years of what his contract would have been. So, for example, Justin Coleman, if I cut him this year, I'd save just under $5 million because of the dead money that I'm be taking on this year. But if I make it a post-June 1st cut, now that dead money, which is $6 million, is going to spread out for the next 3 years through 2023. So that means it's $2 million each year. So yes, I know it takes a little bit away from the upcoming years. I get it. It's just a little bit, though. It's not that much for the league minimum. I just did one, okay? Just one. Then we have Jesse James, $2.1 million. Again, I considered it, but hey, again, I was focused on the future. So I didn't, put any more dead money anywhere. I just took the hit now. We saved just over $2 million with this one. I just don't think tight end number 2 is going to be super important in this scheme with Anthony Lynn. Maybe it'll be different, but in the past it hasn't been. And I think we have some young guys with potential that could get some opportunities if he's not here. So I decided to cut him. Maybe I find a trade partner. I don't know, but I decided to cut him. And then we have Nick Williams. I saved $4.6 million. This one's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, look, you could keep him, but he only has 1 year left on his deal like Trufant. He's over 30 years old. He didn't even play that great last season. Not all his fault, though, but yeah, I mean, hey, if I can save almost $5 million cutting this guy, that's a depth player anyways, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take that money. So I cut Nick Williams. Christian Jones, also cut Christian Jones, saved me $2.5 million there. Okay, that's solid. I just think Christian Jones, he's usually reliable, usually plays. He doesn't play that great, but he usually does play, so I like that about him. But I was kind of, again, just going for more future with this. Then Chase Daniel, I cut him as well, saved me 2.3. Actually, I consider not cutting him. You'll see what I do with the quarterback position instead. But I consider not cutting him just to keep him because he has a couple years left on his deal for a veteran backup. Maybe the Lions could go sign a different one if they want to. But I cut him, and again, I went younger there because I just wanted to save the money. Honestly, I just wanted to save the money. So I cut him right now, 2.3 mil. You can see Danny Shelton, I cut him to save $4 million. Hurts me to do it, but with only 1 year left on his deal, I like Danny Shelton. And, he played well last season. He played pretty well last season considering how bad our defense was. But $4 million, man, I was just like, okay, well, I'm kind of money tight, so I got to do it. And then that moves us on to, a lot of the roster, cuts and things like that. So Matthew Wright, who was signed to a futures contract as a kicker, saved me $780K. Nick Bawden, I cut Nick Bawden, the fullback. My plan was to go get Jason Kabinda as a free agent, bring him back because, Nick Bawden's been dealing with some injuries and he could be fine, but he's just been dealing with so many injuries. And I was like, okay, I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm just going to cut him. I want to get someone that's reliable. And Kabinda was that, last season. So I'm going to try to grab him. And it saves me a little bit of money. Also opens up a roster spot. I also cut Anthony Pittman, $660K. He had some interest from the Raiders, but he decided to stay with Detroit. This is one I went back and forth on a ton. I actually had him on the active roster a couple minutes ago and I took him off. So this one you'll see when we get to the roster how this one could definitely change. But I decided to cut him ultimately just because of spots here. But he could still be on the roster if you wanted to. But it only saved me $660K. Then it's Thedford, the tight end out of Utah, the big guy that really didn't have much production. We talked about him yesterday. He can block, but I didn't think it was a need because there's some other tight ends here that I'd probably, rather see or maybe has a better shot at making the team. So I did cut Thedford. Then we have Tom Kennedy on here, the receiver, the former lacrosse player, saves me $660K, kind of just a roster spot there. Robert McCray, the defensive end / edge out of Indiana, I cut him as well on the futures deal. Jalen Elliott, the undrafted free agent from last season out of Notre Dame, the safety, I cut him as well. John Atkins, that one was tough, $780K, the defensive tackle. Igwabuke, BK, I don't know, sorry. The safety out of Northwestern, I cut him as well. He was signed to a futures contract. Joel Heath, who was signed to a futures contract from Michigan State, the defensive end. Russell Bodine, the interior offensive lineman. And Evan Brown, the guard / center. So overall, that puts us about $28 to $29 million under the cap, if over the cap is correct, and I actually know how to use a calculator. So it's rough. They're rough estimates, they're rough numbers here, but it's a pretty good amount of money that we have. But it's a lot of cuts, so there's a lot of spots that we need to fill. But again, I was going for more of a 53 to 55 man roster right away instead of the 90 roster and things like that. So I kind of just skipped that whole process because there's really no need to do that. So now we got to take a look at the signings. So with the signings, we have 20 to 29 million. My goal was again future. And I used PF and what their projected contracts are. I didn't change them at all, and I didn't even look the backload. Even though you could look the backload, I didn't change them, whatever. I just said, hey, if that's what it's projected and I want to sign him, I got to give him that much money, no matter what. So the first signing I made was Romeo Okwara. They're projecting a 3-year, $19.5 million deal, which is $6.5 per year. Now, that could be set up in certain ways. I'm just assuming it takes $6.5 this year just to keep it easy. And, 3-year deal for Romeo. I was like, okay, yeah, I want Romeo Okwara back. So I took the money I had, and I signed Romeo Okwara, brought him back to the roster. roster. I just think $6.5 million is honestly not a bad price for how well he played. And that bumps us down to like 22.5, 23.5 million for 2021. Then I signed the safety Malik Hooker. Now, Malik Hooker was an interesting one because Trey Boston is someone I think you could also sign as well. Trey Boston's only projected a 1-year deal. Now, I could have, went a little bit out of the zone there and, sign Trey Boston. I think Trey Boston to like a 3-year deal would not be an issue. I would sign Trey Boston to a 3-year deal and give him $3 million a year. I'd be fine with that. I went with Malik Hooker because Boston was only projected a 1-year deal by PFF, and I was like, okay, well, if I do Malik Hooker, who's also projected a 1-year deal, because again, I was trying to stay with the projected. I didn't want to mess it up at all, so I just went with that, but this could easily be Trey Boston, so just put whoever you want here. I'd go with Boston or Hooker, depending on maybe whose price is lower in real life, but I took Hooker because it's only a 1-year deal, but it's only projected $2 million. I put 2 to 3 because it could bump up maybe through some interest. But I signed Malik Hooker because I was thinking, okay, this is like a prove-it deal for him. He's still young. He didn't get his 5th-year option picked up. He's a former first-round pick out of Ohio State. He could play the deep safety position, and he could play split safety. He just needs some work. But I feel like with our coaching staff, I think that he could improve. I think there's a lot of potential there and a need that we definitely need to fill at free safety. So my thought is, okay, if he proves, enough to us in year 1, then we can give him a bigger deal next offseason. But, if he still struggles and we're like, okay, well, he still is having issues tackling the ball, maybe he has an injury or something that pops up, then yeah, you don't have to bring him back. So then next year's draft, you can go get a safety. I wasn't able to hit on a safety in the draft. I'll just say that right now. I'll just spoil it a little bit there. So Malik Hooker was a nice signing for me just for this season to see what he could do and kind of prepare for the future. And if he plays well enough and I can see improvement there, you can bring him back for a multi-year deal and you can keep him. Trey Boston, I know he's going to fit well in this defense. It was just because he's only projected a 1-year deal on PFF. I didn't do it, but I would give him a 3-year deal, 3-year, $9 million or something to come here. But yeah, so I went Malik Hooker. Then I signed Matt Prater. Now, Matt Prater, I couldn't find projections on him, but I know his last deal was $3.8 million a year, so you could give it up to that. I think he'll get less, coming off a rough season, being a little bit older now. I gave him 2 years, $2.8 million. I think locking him up for a couple years will make him interested. I know he wants to stay in Detroit, and that's $19.2 million then we have for 2021 to spend after that signing. Not a super expensive deal, but I just wanted to get a kicker. I just like, okay, hey, Matthew Wright's cool, but I know what Matt Prater can do. Hopefully, he can pick it up a little bit next season. You could look for a different kicker, but I just wanted to bring Matt Prater back. I know he wants to be brought back, and this is more, hey, how do you play this year? You might be looking at a different route this time next year. You might really be like, okay, hey, we're going to have to go somewhere else because he struggled again. But I decided to bring him back for 2 years, but it's still something you're going to be focused on for the future because he is nearing 40, in a few years from now, he's going to be pushing 40. So you're going to have to ready for the future, and that could be Matthew Wright, but I didn't want to have 2 kickers on the roster, so I cut Matthew Wright, but he could be, your future. Then I signed Jason Kabinda. I said I was going to get him. I got the fullback for 2 years, $1.4 million in total. That is kind of what he's projected because it's like $770K. Something like that a year. So I just did, okay, $1.4 million in total. That's like right in between. So $18.5 million we have left. Super cheap deal. I brought him back for 2 years. That way I can have him for the next 2 years, see where we are. Gets us a nice fullback, and I don't think he'll be expensive. Maybe it's more than that. I left some leeway because I left my options open with saving a little bit of extra money. So if any of these contracts had to be a little bit more expensive, you could. And then Troy Hill. I signed the cornerback Troy Hill to a 2-year, $10.5 million deal. Really wanted to go Jordan Lewis, but the only projections I found on him were like $8 to $9 million a year. And I was like, I can't go that high for Jordan Lewis. I didn't want to do that. And I think for me right now, not having Justin Coleman, and I like Jordan Lewis better on the outside than the slot. Not having Justin Coleman, I was thinking, okay, this is the one vet I'll sign. I'll sign one vet because our cornerback depth is super depleted. We only have 2 corners if I cut Coleman and Trufant. I needed someone in there, and I think, okay, this guy, he has connection with Aubrey Pleasant. He's been one of the best slot cornerbacks in the league that also has outside versatility. He's an incredible corner. He's an incredible value corner, and I was like, okay, basically $5.25 million a year is not that bad. I can do that for 2 years. Not as much of a future move. He is 29 years old, but I was thinking, okay, this will be that one vet that I'll splurge on and I'll sign him to fill out some depth, but also help some of these young guys, but fill out that position for now. You'll see what I did with slot corner in the draft, but I wanted to have at least one because I did need to fill out depth, and I thought, okay, that'll be like, the kind of the big name guy I go spend. And then I put Jared Davis here as considered. You could sign him if you want. I didn't know what he's projected to get. I don't know what his market's going to be. It could be pretty high. If it's low, I think it could be brought back. If it's high, then, maybe you just kind of let him go elsewhere. So, boom, those are the signings. Not a lot of signings. I mean, look, again, I didn't want to go sign a whole bunch of 1 to 2 year deals to these vets. I gave some shorter term deals, but they're to guys like Malik Hooker. That's kind of a prove it deal, right? It's to Matt Prater, right? Your kicker. It's Jason Kabinda. So I just didn't want to give for your contract because I wasn't wasn't backloading. I was just using year by year. You could backload and it could change things. But right this offseason, I was just focused on, okay, filling out the roster, maybe getting guys with the potential to try to prove themselves. And, the next upcoming years when the salary cap hopefully goes up because of the COVID stuff and, what we have to pay for Jared Goff could go down, then we could look to sign some big name free agents. So my focus was really on the draft. So those are your signings. Those are your cuts. Yes, I know a lot of cuts and not a ton of signings, but we did have a pretty good amount of draft picks. So onto the draft now, man. Let's just get it started. Let's dive right into the draft. The draft may look confusing here. I'm going to try not to make it confusing. I'll kind of break it down how it went down. I think I have the video of it, but it came out not so great. So here's basically what happened. So with the number 7 pick, I moved back. I got an offer from the Jets. It was a weird offer. I used the PFN mock draft simulator. My thing is simulators, hey, if they let you do it, they let you do it. I mean, it is what it is. They offered a deal. I'm not trying to break the system. They offered it. So they offered 23, 34, and 86 to move up to 7. Now, they have the second pick. So it's like, why would they move up? They selected Penei Sewell. They moved up because Justin Fields was available. Hopefully something like that could happen. If we don't want to take a quarterback and we could get a nice return. That's what happened. So they wanted to jump back up. So they got Sewell and Fields. So good for them. But for me, it was an opportunity to get 3 picks this year. I considered, focusing more on future picks, but since this is a mock off season this year, I want to make it more fun. And I needed draft picks because I was like, okay, I got to fill out this roster with young guys that I can have on 4-year deals and aren't super expensive. So that's what I did. So I took the 3 picks this year, 23, 34, 86, and here are the picks that I made. So with the 23rd pick, I selected Zaven Collins, one of those guys that we've talked about a ton. But 6'4", 260 out of Tulsa. He was a defensive player of the year. I knew linebacker was a big need. At 23, I was kind of like, okay, I don't have a ton of options here. I considered Nick Bolton. I did, however, go with Zaven. If we were going to a 4-3, I could have took Bolton there, but I was thinking, okay, how can I keep this somewhat versatile to 4-3 and 3-4, but also if we want to keep a similar defense, Nick Bolton could be really out of the loop there. I didn't want to have that happen, so I went with Zaven Collins. He gives you size, he gives you great zone coverage, which we absolutely need. He's just a playmaker. He can play all around. He can give you every facet of the game at a high level, and really where he struggles is really just his speed, but he's not slow. I mean, he's not like, he's faster than Jelani Tavai, right? And he weighs 260 pounds, okay? I don't think the last time I've seen him get clocked was high school. He just put on a lot of pounds, put on a lot of weight to become the linebacker position. He's also a former quarterback and safety. So I just feel like this was a good pick. We needed a linebacker. I got the best linebacker that was out there, in my opinion. And that's why I selected Zaven Collins because, you can see the cuts I made. I don't have that many linebackers on the roster, and I just need talent there. It's just simple as that we need talent there. So I selected Zaven Collins, and I got us one of the best linebackers in the class. Then at number 34, I got Kadarius Toney here. Now, I don't usually draft Kadarius Toney, but I thought I'd make mixing it up a little bit. So I went with the receiver out of Florida with 34 in the second round. So yes, I didn't take a receiver first round because I was at 23, and we don't have Kenny Golladay because if you noticed, I didn't re-sign Kenny Golladay or tag him. I had him walk, so I had to save the money there because of how low the league, how low the salary cap set. If I would have done some other things, if I restructured Gus' contract, I could have brought him back. In this situation, I really couldn't financially because I wouldn't have been able to do anything. So he ended up having to walk. So I knew I had to get a receiver, and since I already took a linebacker, I had to get a great receiver. And I think Toney doesn't, he doesn't replicate what Galladay's going to give you, but he can give you a big impact, and you'll see, this wasn't the only wide receiver I'm going to draft, but at 6'1", 177, he's just such a playmaker when the ball's in his hands. I mean, he's one of the most electric players in the open field, and the Lions, since Golden Tate, I don't know if we've had that, where you get him the ball and he can just make plays with it in his hands. He forced 20 missed tackles last season. He doesn't drop the ball, and he gets a lot of separation. I think for a guy like Jared Goff on time, just quick passes, get the ball to your hands, this is going to be a great guy for those situations. You didn't see him a lot of contested battles. You just didn't see him there. And he's a pretty raw player. He hasn't played a ton. His route running needs work. I think he needs to improve, but we're not in a win now mode necessarily, right? So I didn't think I needed the most polished receiver right now, but a guy with super high upside that is just so electric with the ball in his hands. I was like, okay, I'll take Toney out of Florida, and I'll get ourselves a receiver. So that moves us on to we're staying in the second round actually here because, I traded back. So with the 41st pick, I select Elijah Molden. So here's where I get a cornerback. Now, yes, I did sign Troy Hill, but I know he's only on a 2-year deal, and he's 29 years old. I got to be prepared for what's going to happen in the future. And I think Elijah Molden is one of the better cornerbacks in this class, but to me, he's going to be my slot cornerback, okay? I think slot's important in the NFL. You run so many nickel sets. So at 5'10", 190, coming out of Washington, I thought having a slot would be super important. I mean, the guy's numbers are unreal. They're absolutely unreal. He's allowed 2 touchdowns to 5 picks in 3 years. That's like, what? He's a very willing tackler. He's actually one of the better tacklers, one of the best tackling corners in this class. So good at tackling that they try to move him to safety at the end of his career. So now it gives you flexibility where if you want to try to match safety, then, maybe if you feel like you have enough depth a couple years later, you could bump him to safety and maybe he becomes your free safety. Maybe, I'm just saying he could. They tried him there and he looked pretty good in his last game, but he's a slot cornerback. That's a big playmaker, 17 pass breakups in just over a year. The only issues really with this game are his size and his versatility to play the outside. And I don't need him for that. I need him as a slot. You'll see with the rest of the draft, I didn't need an outside wide receiver. I wanted a slot for the future. Troy Hill can play outside if I need him to. So I can just start Molden if he takes over the slot role, and I can just bump Hill outside, and I'd be like, okay, you'll be my outside corner. That's where I feel like Hill's versatility helps me. I didn't need it with Molden. I just wanted the best slot corner I could find, and that was Elijah Molden. So I'm happy. I haven't drafted him a lot, but I was happy with this pick, and that moves us on to is this the third round? Yeah, it's the third round. We got a little wait here. All the way to 72. Now, at 72, you guys know I really value running back, and I felt like I needed a running back here. I definitely felt like I needed a running back. I didn't sign one in free agency. There's not that many options, but since he was here, I would have waited, but Javonte Williams fell. Michael Carter, all those guys went off. Javonte fell. And I was like, okay, this is the best running back available. I think he's a top 5, top 3 running back in this class. Honestly, I don't know if you could put him on Najee Harris level, but man, I mean, I don't think he's far behind. Out of North Carolina, really the biggest issue with him is he was a split back with Michael Carter. But I think that's a good thing. He doesn't have much tread, and that's what he's going to be in Detroit. I want a running back that's different from Swift. 5'10", 220, he's a powerful runner that just runs, oh my gosh, he runs so angry. But he's forced 75 missed tackles. Literally 75. That's the best in college football. He's a goal line threat. Just hasn't been used a ton in the pass game, but he can snag the ball. He does have a few concentration drops, but he can snag the ball in the air. Overall, he's just a super talented running back that's already been in a split back system, so I don't think he'd mind it, right? I don't need a bell cow. I just needed someone to take some pressure off of Swift and have a nice little duo there. I kept carrying on the roster as my third running back, so I think Javonte and Swift, we got a beast running back core for years ago. I mean, that is going to be sick. Let me rephrase these 75 missed tackles. 75 broken tackles, okay? He's not like a little agile running back. Now, I'm not saying he's a slouch, right? He's not slow. He's just not, one of those quickest guys. He's not a scat back, right? He's not a big receiving threat. They didn't use him a lot. Now, even though you saw some glimpses of his ability to catch, some one-handed grabs, he had that big touchdown on the rollout by the quarterback. You see his hands here and there. He just wasn't used a lot there. He's just a very good all-around running back that will run through tacklers. He's not a burner. He's not going to run a 4.3 40 at running back, but I don't need that, right? I wanted someone to give me more power, someone that could line up in the goal line and run through somebody, that has some contact balance. But his all-around game is what makes me so excited. I just couldn't believe he fell. I had to take him. I mean, this was like my big board. He was like way at the top, and I was like, yeah, we're going to take that guy. He's still here for some reason. One of my favorite players in this draft. And yeah, that moves us to number 86. So I think this was also by a trade. I think 86 is by the first trade. Yeah, this is by the Jets trade. And at number 86, I got Elijah Moore. So I got my second receiver here. Now, this one was a little bit tricky because I selected Kadarius Toney, and I was like, okay, do I go more? So Kadarius Toney, even though he doesn't have the best size, he can play on the outside. Elijah Moore might be able to do that, but I think he's more of a slot at the next level. But I was just thinking, again, playmakers in space, give me separation. And what I like about Elijah Moore, after having someone you do it in their mock thing, is this: he's got such great hands. I mean, I'm all about being able to catch the football. Can he catch the ball, right? This guy catches the ball better than many players in the country. I mean, that alone is like, okay, I like him. I know height's an issue. Versus bigger corners, he can have issues as well. He didn't face a lot of press because he played so much at slot, so he may have to be your slot day one. But with no Amendola back, we still need receiver depth. One receiver ain't going to do it. Elijah Moore, 5'11", 184. He was the guy. He was a threat all over. He's a deep threat. He had like over 100 targets in his last year. I mean, this guy was just involved in every single fake you could possibly imagine to get the defense thrown off. You just got to know where he's at when he's on the field. And he has such great hands to combat that. It's just that, he's got some of the top hands in terms of contested grabs. I mean, he's one of the best contested catchers in the country, as well as he doesn't have drops. He just doesn't have drops. I think he has like 2 drops on his resume. Now, look, I don't know if he's the twitchiest guy out there, but he's reliable. He's faster than Amendola, and I need another receiver. So I took Elijah Moore. I got us some outside talent. So for 4 years, we got Toney and Moore in a receiver core. Awesome. And that moves me on to, what pick is this? This is pick number 88, and this is CHAZZ SURRATT. So now I get a linebacker. So I selected Zaven Collins. Now, if we stay in a 3-4 look, I think SURRATT fits much better. If we go to a 4-3 look, I think he may have opportunity to bounce to the outside, but I think he can fit a little bit in both here. That's why I made this pick, but I mainly made this for a 3-4, okay? If we stay with 4 linebackers. In a 4-3, but because I had Nick Bolton at an opportunity at Nick Bolton, not this part, but earlier in the draft, but I think I went with Toney instead. But I'm looking for more if we stay in a similar defense here, and I think SURRATT can fit inside. He's got room to grow. He's got a lot of room to grow, but with a lot of high upside. 2019, he was awesome. He was awesome to watch. I liked him a lot in 2019. 2020 was a rough year for him. Not gonna sugarcoat it. It was rough. 6'2", 225. He needs to get stronger. He needs to get more powerful. I mean, it's just that simple for me. He was a former quarterback. We know about that. He's only played the position for 2 years. But he showed so many flashes to me about what he can do, you know, getting after the quarterback in pass coverage, his feel for the game. He showed so many great flashes that I'm thinking, okay, this guy can play that position. He's willing as an inside linebacker at, you know, when he played in college, he was willing to do that. He just got to get stronger. And I think in the NFL, if you want to get strong, if you want to get bigger, you can do it. They're going to work out every day. This guy can get bigger. He needs to get bigger for me, though. I don't want to make him slow, but I don't think he's going to get slow. I think you bump him up 20 pounds. No matter where he plays, he's got to get bigger. He's got to get bigger. He's got to get stronger. There's a lot of small linebackers in this class. So whether you put him inside or outside, he's just got to get stronger to me. He's got the size there in terms of height. I've seen, you know, how well he can do in zone coverage over the middle, which also combines with how well Zaven can do in coverage. Coverage was such an issue for us last year. I'm just like, man, I just want guys that can cover. I mean, I really do. And I know Jamie can do that as well. So could you imagine Zaven, Surratt, and Jamie all playing at a high level in terms of coverage, but he just needs to get bigger, he needs to get stronger so he can have more of an impact against the run. He can flash, he just needs more of an impact against the run consistently, so he's got to be in that weight room, you know, drinking that protein. Drink that whey protein, my guy. So yeah, I wanted to go linebacker there. The second trade that went down that let me acquire some more picks as well. So this was offered from the Ravens, I believe, yes. So they wanted 112 when I was sitting there, so I gave them 112. They also wanted 2022 7th round. I was trying not to give it up, y'all. When I say I didn't want to give it up, I tried. I tried so many things. I was like, don't give it up, but I wanted some more picks this year because they offered 131, 169, and 184. All right. Now, it's a pretty far move back. It was 19 spots, but where I was willing to move back because I felt like, okay, I'm pretty comfortable where I am. I'm looking for depth pieces now. I'm looking for, you know, future pieces. So I wanted more picks to fill out more spots for depth. But man, they wanted that 7th round pick. So I was like, forget it. Take the dang 7th round pick. I was steamed. Y'all, I was clicking back and forth like, come on. No. So yes, I gave up 112 and a 7th round pick next season for 131, 169, and 184. Ravens went up to get Marquez Stevenson. I know the dude's fast, but he doesn't get open that often deep. So I'm just saying, speed ain't everything. So I'm okay with that. Y'all gave all that up for Marquez Stevenson. I guess speed kills, right? And that moves us to 131. And here I took another receiver. So yes, I got 3 receivers in this class because I didn't bring any back. I mean, I lost Marvin, Galladay, and Amendola and Agnew. I got to get some receivers. So I went with Sage Surratt here. I was so happy this guy fell. I was actually considering trading up for him. I was not going to lose Sage Surratt. Nico was there as well. I was considering him, but Nico went before. So I went with Surratt, 6'3", 215. So I got Elijah Moore and I got Tony. You know, these smaller guys. You know, Tony's 177, Moore's 185. Moore's more of a slot. So I'm like, okay, I got to get some size. I know you don't need a jump ball, go get a guy, but I would like to have one. And that's what Surratt is. At 6'3", 215, he's just a powerful receiver. He's one of the most physical receivers in the nation. But I think what sells me about Surratt is, first off, now he gets to play with his brother. Awesome. But I think Big Baby likes to hear that. But what sells me about Surratt is that when you watch that offense, and Jamie Newman specifically at Wake, when he went down, they were not that good. That team kind of fell apart. He did not play well. Surratt was honestly the glue holding that offense together. He was the dude. You notice all these guys we drafted were kind of the guy, aside from Kadarius Toney because they had Kyle Pitts, but they were the guy. I mean, Elijah Moore and Sage Surratt were the guy, and he gives me an outside threat. I need that. He's a bully. He's one of the best contested grabbers in the country in terms of, you know, rate. He has like an 18 to 31 contested grab rate. But yeah, he's not the quickest guy. He doesn't have that top end, you know, speed that I see, and he didn't play last season. He misses some of that. There are weaknesses. There's a reason he fell. However, I just like the fact that he can throw it up, he can go take it out of the air, and he gives us that mix because the other two guys are smaller. I needed someone to kind of mix it up a little bit, and I felt like Surratt could do that, and that's what I got there. And the, what is that, 4th or 5th round? I don't even know what round this is. And that was a 154, and this is Benjamin St. Juste. So, something we talk about a lot, an outside physical corner, the second corner I draft here. I know we need depth, so I went with St. Juste at 154. I was just surprised to see him fall. Bynum was also there. I considered him, but I went with St. Juste instead. I like his size. I mean, he just can't really teach it. 6'3", 205. He's got gigantic wingspan. He's got incredible length. You can't teach what those physical attributes of his game. He's relentless. He just gets after it. You know, he just jumps down on things. He just wants it. But with that in mind, he plays very handsy. He gets called for PIs. You know, his acceleration isn't the best, probably because of his size a little bit there. And we didn't see a ton of him. Last year, he really took off. But I'm thinking at this part, right, when we're talking these day 3 picks, hey, what can I build on? You can build on the size. You can build on, you know, his aggressiveness underneath. You can build on that he's one of the best corners at point of attack, but also one of the best corners on deep passes, right? What, you know, he needs work at is acceleration, getting quicker, faster. But as an outside corner, he doesn't have much of an inside versatility, slot versatility. But I got 2 guys for that. MOLDEN's taking that role, and he's not moving out of there. And I already have Troy Hill if I need it. So I was like, okay, I need an outside receiver for the future. St. Juste doesn't need to play right away. He's behind Amani, he's behind Okudah, but you can compete with them for the spot. And it's kind of like the size that we were kind of getting before with Okudah and Amani. We had good size corners that would tackle. I feel like that's what St. Juste can bring with his size. And then that moves us to 169. I didn't like what was here at 169 for quarterbacks, but I went with Jordan Scott out of Oregon. Now he's at 6'1", 6'1", 322. He's kind of forgotten a little bit. If we're staying in a three-man front defensively, he fits because he can play nose tackle. And I was like, okay, I cut Shelton, I cut, Nick Williams. I got to have someone that I can rotate with John Pennicini if he's my starter next year. Jordan Scott could be that guy. He's explosive. He's a lane clogger. I love his nicknames, Mini Fridge and Fat Mac. I'm not going to call him Fat Mac, but I'll go with Mini Fridge. I like Mini Fridge. But look, the thing is, late round nose tackles, you hit on them. I mean, you can find some talent. Look at Snacks Harrison undrafted, John Pennicini last year. Nose tackles don't have the same type of appeal because not all the time are they great pass rushers. And he doesn't have that production. He only had 2 sacks last season. That was his most sacks he's had in a year. But he is explosive. He did have 4.5 tackles for loss. The thing is, just late round nose tackles can be day one impact players. And I just need someone that can run in and out with Pennicini. But my favorite part, and he's not, that consistent as a pass rusher, usually because taking on double teams. But what I like about him the most is that he's 4-3 versatile. He's also played 4-3 with Oregon. So I'm like, okay, 3-4, great. What if we go to a 4-3, then what? That's what we were trying to figure out with Pennicini. Can he adjust to that? Scott has already played some of that. So I already know that, hey, if we go to a 4-3, I can make him an interior defense lineman, and maybe he'll get more pressure there because he was not double teamed all the time. So I thought this was cool value just because of the versatility to play both schemes. It was my favorite part. And I was like, yes, Jordan Scott, welcome to Detroit. And that moves us to our final pick. This is Dan Moore. So I did want to get one offensive lineman again. I didn't love the quarterbacks that were there. It was like Ian Book, Sam Ellinger, Felipe Franks. I was like, okay, they're okay, but I don't know. There's just not a trait about them that I love that I want to build on. So I didn't even draft one. You'll see what I did. But I select Dan Moore, and Dan Moore comes out of Texas A&M, 6'5", 320 pounds. Okay, Dan Moore, he's going to need work. You're talking this late. These guys are going to need time to progress. I was considering going guard, but I went with tackle because I'm thinking, okay, Crosby's deal is about to expire. If they don't love Big V, we could be in trouble in the future for tackle. So I want someone that at least has a shot to compete for it. And I wanted to go a different route than usual, Alaric Jackson or something like that. So I went with Dan Moore. Now, Dan Moore has played a lot. So he has tons of experience under his belt. He's started in over 35 games. He's got really good power, long arms. He's got kind of the physical. He's strong. He's got a very strong upper body. He's got the physical traits you want for a tackle, but he doesn't have like the lower body quicks. The footwork, he's kind of slow. So we can have issues in pass protection, especially against speedy rushers. That'll be something that he'll have to work on. I think footwork, you just work on that. You grind the offseason, you get better. That's where he needs to improve, no question. He looks like he's going to be his best in a running scheme, which tells me maybe he could bump into guard at 6'5", 320, that if I needed last second, like I need someone. Usually great run blockers, zone run blockers can bump to guard if you need them to from tackle. So I think there might be versatility there, maybe. But it's really because, hey, he early in his career, I think he can help us run block. And I know we're going to look to run the ball a lot, I think, with these new guys. I already got the running back. Let's get some depth at tackle and see if maybe he could be part of the future. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. Maybe he doesn't make the team. But at that point, I'm just looking for something I can build on. I'm building on the size and the fact that he can run block and maybe versatile. So those are my draft picks. Now, yes, I didn't grab a quarterback. I felt like I filled pretty much every need. We're going to look at the roster here. So what did I decide to do? Well, I signed undrafted free agents. So that's what I did. So I don't know who's going to sign with me, but I tried. So here's what I did. I signed Sean Davis, the safety out of Florida. Sean Davis comes in a little bit undersized, I guess you could say, but Sean Davis maybe could compete for that free safety spot. He just has a lot of lapses. He's just not consistent in the back end. But I was thinking, okay, I can grab competition for free safety with Malik Hooker, just another young guy. I also signed Felipe Franks. So using the simulator, he went undrafted because no one picked him up. So I signed Felipe Franks out of Florida. I like Felipe. The thing I like Felipe is that he's got size. He seems to be, a gamer in terms of he's super competitive. He's not very polished. He's pretty raw. Holds the ball way too long too. I mean, Senior Bowl, this guy was like, Mike, come on, throw the ball. But the one thing I do like about it is that when he went to Arkansas, all the Arkansas fans praised him. They're like, hey, man, he was so good for us. He put us, back on the map. He did so much for this, and they all loved him. And I'm like, okay, that's the kind of character that I'm looking for. I want someone that's like, the fans were proud of, and they're proud to say, hey, Felipe was our guy. So he went from Florida to Arkansas, and, I was like, okay, I could rock with that. He hasn't been on the best team. He's playing against the best competition. I can rock with that. I might be able to work with that. I also signed Tay Goldman. Tay Goldman and Rashad Wildgoose, I don't know how either of these guys didn't get drafted. I guess because it's just so deep. Both these guys are projected to be mid-day 2 picks, so I selected both in undrafted free agency. Maybe I can't do it, but I did. All right, Tay Goldman can compete for the slot spot as well, kind of with his size. I think he's like 5'11", 185 out of UCF. And, and he hasn't played the best competition, but he's been a baller against the competition he's went against. I think tackling's been kind of a concern there. And that moves you to Wild Goose. Again, I don't know how he didn't get picked up out of Wisconsin, but he could play outside corner. So I was like, all right, I'll pick them both up. They got talent. It's there. They got things to work on, but there's talent there. And I also put Master Teague, put a little, star thing because this one is maybe, maybe not. I do this because if I need extra running back for depth, Master Teague could be an option coming out of Ohio State. not Trey Sermon, Master Teague, because he's powerful, and I think you could use that kind of back maybe. So I put Master Teague on there as well. What you'll notice there, as you can see, it says $9.55 million. So I added up what the average price is, the contract for what their cap hit would be for 2021 for those draft picks. But it's a $9.55 million, which means we have the money to take on the draft, which is nice. Also, you would have to account for the undrafted free agents that you sign. So a few of those guys, they'd be low. I think they'd be low, like the lower end picks. So maybe like 600 to 700K. So that bump you up a couple million as well. But the good thing is we have enough money that we saved from free agency from, the signings that I did have. And if you backload it, you'd save even more, which is great. But we'd have the money to take on those undrafted free agents. So that's good. And now let's go take a look at the roster. Let's break down the confusion of this roster and me explain each positional group. So starting with the quarterback position, we have three guys. We have Goff, Blau, and Franks. Now, you don't have to keep Franks on the active roster. I have Blau probably winning the backup role. Maybe Franks does. You don't have to keep Franks on the active roster. Remember last year we didn't really do that. We just kept two. But, then when the injuries started coming, we started to bring him up and also travel three. But as long as, you're fine, you could go with two and that could save a roster spot for you. But I think Blau would win that role, but maybe Franks does. I just didn't have a quarterback that fell to me, and I didn't want to, push it. I didn't want to just take a quarterback because, hey, I might want a quarterback. Like, if I don't believe in the quarterback in the future, because, I'm putting my Brad Holmes hat on, I didn't believe in one that fell to me, so I wasn't going to rush it. But next year, the year after that, we can still do it. We could take a quarterback in those drafts when we have some more picks as well. Then you go to the running back spot, we have Swift, Javonte, Kerryon, and Kabinda. Now, we're going pretty small with the running back position here. That's why I have Teague listed. I think you could go with three running backs in your fullback. I think that's fine. But if you wanted to put an extra running back, it could be Teague if you wanted to make a spot for him. That's why I signed him as an undrafted free agent because, hey, there you go. Then you have four running backs. There you go. You could do that. Tight end, I went Hockenson, Hunter Bryant, Mack. I just didn't see enough for Thedford in college for me to say, okay, yeah, he would win the role over Mack. And also, Mack has enough size. He has enough size for me to maybe replace a little bit of Jesse James. I'm not saying, he's proven necessarily either. But I decided to go with him over Thedford. I don't know. That's just kind of where I went with it. I think 3 tight ends is enough. Wide receiver, I went with Tony Moore, Surratt, Quintez Cephas, Geronimo Allison, Victor Bolden. Keep in mind, these aren't really where I think the order would fall. I mean, they could definitely change. Like, I would see Sage Surratt as maybe my 1 or 2 on the outside with Kadarius Toney. Then I put Elijah Moore at slot. Quintez Cephas still could be your 1 or 2. Then you have Allison for depth, and Victor Bolden, maybe Allison wins it. I don't know. I mean, none of these guys are cut. These are just who on that spot in the depth chart. So they could all win roles. I kept Victor Bolden this time around because he can also be a return man if I need to. I decided to keep him. He's been a guy that's compete for a little bit with the Detroit Lions in the offseason, so I thought I'd keep him this time around. Offensive lineman with 9. I think last season we had 8, so you could cut one of these guys. I have Decker left tackle, Jonah left guard, Frank at center, right guard Big V, right tackle Crosby. I have a feeling that for some reason Big V goes to right guard. I don't know why. Maybe Stenberg wins that role and we're good to go, and then Big V can go to right tackle, Crosby can go to backup, and hey, we're good to go. Maybe Crosby wins the role. I don't know. I just have a feeling Big V will go to guard, and as long as he's in one place, consistently, I think that'll be fine. He's better as a run blocker, so maybe they'll try to put him at guard. And then backups would be Stenberg, Joe Dahl, both those guys, versatile. They've done the cross practice where they played center, guard, things like that. Then you have Dan Moore, who we just drafted, the tackle, and Dan Skipper is another tackle. So, you don't need to keep 9, okay? You can go 8 here, and that saves a spot for other positions like linebacker, which we're going to get to. Let's take a look at defensive line. I have interior defensive line, John Pennicini, Jordan Scott, Deshaun Hand, Kevin Strong. Hand's had so many injuries that you can't completely rely on him, so that's a big reason I brought in Scott as well. I had to keep Strong. I think he showed up in some big moments. We didn't keep Adkins, but I thought I had to keep Strong. And, of course, Pennicini, he's a baller. And then edge, we have Flowers, Romeo, Jay-Sean Cornell, and Austin Bryant. You could also list Julian here if you wanted to. I have him listed with where do I have him listed? No, where is Julian? Wait a minute. Where is Julian Okwara?
Boots is wearing red boots, so if we look for red things, maybe we'll find him. Do you see anything red here? Excelente!
Okay, I don't have Julian Okwara on mine. All right, well, that's an L. You guys see him, I don't. Julian Okwara is under edge, I guess. He's not on mine. Sorry, I don't know what's going on there. All right, he's also a linebacker kind of too. So at linebacker, we have Zaven, Jelani, CHAZZ Surratt, Jamie Collins, Sean Dion Hamilton, Jalen Reese-Maben. And then in parentheses, it could be Anthony Pittman. You could keep him. I went back and forth on that one. Jared Davis, if he gets re-signed, I don't know what his value is going to look like in free agency. Maybe it's bigger. Maybe it's not big. I don't know. I mean, I think his value could be kind of big. There could be some teams interested. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers were interested. Just how much are they willing to shell out? But if this is cheap, I think the Lions will bring him back. It's a 4-3, definitely. I could see him bring him back 3-4, hit and miss depending on the price. But I went with a lot of young guys that they didn't really get to see but could be part of the future. That way they can evaluate. Not, hey, let's evaluate based on film. Let's evaluate based on how our defense is. So we can develop Zaven. We can develop Jelani, Surratt. You know, Jamie's Jamie, but that's still really your only vet. Deion Hamilton, Jalen Reese-Maybin, like, these are young guys. So I'm going for the future, man. We're seeing what we got. Special teams, Prater and Fox, 2 easy ones there. Safety, I went with 5. I've seen a lot of 3 safety sets with the Saints from Aaron Glenn's defense last year. So, well, he wasn't his defense last year, but maybe he decides to do that. I'm not sure. So that's why I kept Bobby Price with Walker, Will Harris, Malik Hooker, CJ Moore. Now, Bobby Price could also be listed as a linebacker on passing downs. Think about it. He could have been like the linebacker cover tight ends. Last year, that's what Curse did. Now, Curse played well. I just didn't bring him back. He went to the Ravens, and he may get signed somewhere else this offseason. I just didn't have him brought back. I just went with Price. I'm like, all right, let's just keep Price. You know, maybe Price played a little bit last season, and that's really the reason I picked him over the other guys. And corner, we have Okuda, Amani, Troy Hill, Elijah Molden, Benjamin St. Juice, Tay Gomet, and Richard Wildgoose. So, yes, a lot of young guys, really only one real vet there. Underneath, I listed Michael Ford and Daryl Roberts. It might be unlikely that you get guys like Goldman and Wildgoose. So to be realistic, if you don't get those guys, maybe you just get one or something like that, or you just have one UDFA, whoever it may be. You know, Michael Ford, another guy you could bring back, Daryl Roberts, something like that. I mean, that's like very minimum price. It's going to be like $1 million to a less for a year. And it's kind of like what you're doing when you're signing one of these guys. It's just a vet, you know, it's just a vet instead of a young guy. So I'm fine with going to young guy, honestly, but it's just a vet there. But since I got him, I was like, hey, I'm going to rock with those dudes. But if you don't, because they don't actually hit undrafted free agency for some crazy reason, which wouldn't be that crazy at all, then, you know, you could look for vets if you wanted to. So, yeah, that's what it's looking like, man. I don't know why I don't have Julian listed. Where did Julian go? Come on, Julian. I don't know where Julian is. I'm going to have to put him in there. I might list him as linebacker. You know, just why not? Back then is Okuda, Amani, 2 outside guys. Hill will start at slot. Elijah Molden will back up slot, try to give you that role. If he takes that role, Hill will bump to outside. He'll fight with Amani and Okuda there. It's always need depth. Benjamin's an outside, a corner. Tay Goldman will fight for slot and outside. Same thing with Wild Goose as well. More outside for Wild Goose. Thing was the safety out of Florida there. I actually had him get cut. So I try to keep it so realistic that I had literally an undrafted free agent I signed get cut. So I had Davis, Sean Davis, the safety out of Florida, get cut. So he didn't actually make the team, even though I signed him first. He didn't make it. I don't know. I was just having fun with it. So what do you guys think, man? I don't know. I thought it was pretty fun. You know, it took me a while to do it. So you let me guys know if you guys want to see another decent, you want to see me do one where it's like, hey, we do it with, you know, Jared Goff gets traded. Jared Goff gets restructured to save us like we'll have like $40 million in cap this year because he saved $20 million. Well, then we could do that. We can make some big moves this year. Let me know. Well, win now mode rebuild, retool. I don't know. Let me know those guys. Well, thank you for watching. And I'm